Good evening, everybody. Weber, cut it out.
Let's go now.
It's Friday. It's 9 p.m. It's time for the What's on Joe Mind TeamStream. I'm Mike Irizarry, your host. How's everybody doing?
Come on.
Awesome. Good evening to our live viewers. Good evening to our folks who are watching this sometime in the future. I like getting all meta like this.
Right.
Joe Colton will be joining us shortly, but here is part of the program like he is every week because we can count on him. Former head of marketing for the G.I. Joe brand at Hasbro, the Hot Show, Mark Weber.
I mean, what else are you going to do on a Friday night? Come on now.
I mean,
banished the family. I muzzled the dog.
Yeah, you're married. You got kids. You got nothing else to do.
Well, yeah, I know, but you don't see them, do you? Who's in charge, right?
Not right now. No, we'll see them later.
Let me tell you what. I run this household from 9 to 10:30ish on Friday nights. So, welcome to my kingdom. Pending, right? TikTok. So, my world, my house, my rules till 10:30 at least.
Yeah. And only not before 8:59.
No, no, that's when they're all parading behind me, right? Taking the Trail of Tears upstairs. Beat it. It's podcast time.
Shoo.
Yep. And love you. Bye.
Again on Sunday nights for Eternal Baseball.
That's right. Round two. See, I'm slowly expanding my kingdom. One podcast at a time. It's the only time I'm in total control of my own home because Mrs. Weber doesn't want to be on camera ever. Derek, my eldest, 14 years old, probably doesn't care one way or the other. Elizabeth, though, is the one who's in, productions at school, right? She's the drama student. So she walks by real slow with like a hair flip in the background. And I'm like, okay, I know who's gonna, pod burst on us first.
Wait, who our problem is gonna be?
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be the lovely Elizabeth. So be prepared.
And joining us at the bottom row tonight, in the absence of one Joe Colton, the minds of Grindstone Toys. Under me here, John Kukovich. Under the honcho is Troy McKie. Gentlemen, we give you the.
And that's how we bring them in.
Thank you.
Thank you. And they are here to talk about their upcoming 1/18th scale O-ring construction military action figure line called Callsign Longbow. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Great. Doing well.
Good. You don't have any stories to tell like the honcho? Come on. You're getting set up on that. You got to top his fitness.
Nothing that exciting. I'm not running the whole house. I'm just running my office here at the end of the house. So
how many layers of barbed wire keep everybody else out?
I do have a locked door because I do have a 6-year-old. So that is a precaution I have to take.
Yes. I was going to say, you Mark has older children. You have young children, so you have to have legitimate security measures in place.
Yeah, and as I recall, 6-year-olds sometimes they decide clothes are optional.
Yeah, and I am 2 hours off from you guys, so it is still only 7 o'clock here. So she wouldn't be in bed or anything.
No,
so, yeah,
she might be evading the bath.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
exactly.
I know how that works. And as cute as it is, right, it's also actionable if it happens to get broadcast on the internet. So
exactly.
Locked door, very good idea.
Accidental just doesn't matter.
Right. Remember that time?
We're all
not funny.
We're all going away for a long time.
There's a lot of things that are cute memories, but not so much if a camera is rolling, right? So, yeah.
John, you have any security precautions going on?
No, I'm good.
All right.
It's only me and the wife tonight, so.
Okay. You do just have to worry about your power staying on.
Evidently, yeah. We just had a storm roll through, and it's been 10 minutes since the storm happened, and the power just starts cutting out. So,
yeah, to fill everybody in, the pre-show, John's been on with us for 20, 25 minutes now. He's had to reboot 3 times, so we're hoping we can keep him around. If you see John cut out halfway through, don't panic.
I'll be right back.
He'll
Right?
be back as soon as possible. If he comes back and he looks like Joe Colton, don't panic.
Right. That's that.
We're expecting her to show up a little bit later, so just don't panic.
Right? That'd be a hell of a storm.
That is tonight's theme.
Would be.
That's
It is kind of guys' night out though right now, right?
It is.
Sausage fest, right? Where the women at?
See, Sausage Fest, I always assumed was a whole bunch of guys and one girl.
I mean, depends on the girl, doesn't it?
But you know, because in guy speak, it's like everybody's going to try and impress the one girl, and hence that's what makes it a sausage fest.
So what would you call a bunch of dudes and no girls? Now, be careful here.
Just an excuse to all walk around and scratch ourselves.
Right? We're like at the gas and sip at 8:00 on a Saturday night with no women anywhere by choice, man. It's a conscious choice.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if that's a good choice or not, but it's certainly a choice.
It's fine. By the way, as the guy with the largest skull here, how come I get the logo like pushing in on me, right? Headroom, Hal. There we go.
All right. You feel better?
No, you can move us around. I didn't realize that.
Like,
You got the timer.
head showing at actual size. I appreciate that, Mike.
I mean, I think I have a bigger hat size than you do, Mark, but it's just I sit a little bit further back, so it doesn't.
I guess that's true.
I look a little bit more human. Like the folks who have seen me since we've been doing this show on video, they see me and they say, I didn't expect you to be that tall. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Right.
I'm 6 feet. It's not like I'm a giant, but I think they expect me to be some little dude.
I don't know, man. Especially with the actual headphones and the luscious crop of fine Corinthian hair. You got a lot going on, man. I wouldn't assume you were small from the internet, but whatever.
Even with Joe Colton around, she's very tall too.
Yeah.
Like out of all of the toy podcasts, we could probably beat up most of the other toy podcasts.
Got that right. Troy's 6'10". He's a ringer.
Troy is a former power forward for the Denver Nuggets. John is a defensive end for the Green Bay Packers. So
John's got forearms like Popeye. Don't make him break them out, man. Yeah. Right. We're ready. Bring on the horsemen.
something like that.
Okay.
So
Next week, it's War Games.
Are you calling out-
What's on your
Are you
mind?
calling out Arn Anderson? Is that what you're doing right now?
Yeah,
Is that,
are you ready?
We do the horseman thing sometimes, and we make Rob Oley, which is not fair, man. Because
Look, Ole's the grouchy guy who does all the booking, so it kind of works.
I guess
So it kind of works. Anyways, tonight we do have a full slate of news, or as full as it normally gets. Some stuff happened this week, so we're going to cover it with these longtime G.I. Joe fans, these gentlemen, this John and this Troy. And
these pillars of the community.
correct.
Yeah,
That's the term I'm stumbling around for blindly.
that's what I'm here for.
So let's go to the news.
Dude.
Wow, you're so fired up for that, you kind of blew the audio.
I'm totally ready. I've been waiting on that all day. Been scaring the dog with it.
First news item. We have sightings of the Target exclusive Cobra Island classified figures. Reports are turning up regarding more of the first wave of Target exclusive Cobra Island figures appearing on Target shelves. That's Baroness, Cobra Infantry. Haven't seen one for Beachhead yet, but I'm sure by the time you're watching this, he'll have turned up somewhere. I'm sure if you've spent any time online in recent days, you've caught wind of these too. It appears that Hasbro and Target are making a real attempt to make good on the promise given during last week's Fan First Friday event to make those figures more available. And that's a good thing because, wow, there's a lot of real toxic, negative stuff in the community, and not all of it's unearned because these things have been really tough to get a hold of. I think it gets taken to unrealistic extremes. I think there's a lot of undue negativity about it, but at the core of it all is a legitimate issue, and it's good that they're trying to address that. Mark Weber, what you thinking?
I mean, the only people who could possibly be upset by these figures becoming more available are the guys who thought they were going to finance their kids' college education off of them, right? So it was, it was problematic that they chose some really iconic figures and some of the first troop builder, right, to come out and be store exclusives that were damn near impossible to find. So I would argue, and no offense, Mike, that Beachhead is kind of the tipping point of what you might want as a store exclusive. Like the Roadblock was fine. Not everybody wanted it. An alt deco of a popular character that's already been released. Okay, now you're talking. But something like the Baroness, right? That is an A+, can't miss character. And at that point, and maybe still the best figure they'd made, to have that, and the only vehicle they'd offered, to have that be available in such limited numbers was really frustrating to collectors. And beyond that, if you're looking at the overall growth and health of a line, if they're not on shelves because there's no animation or anything pushing it right now, how are you going to build new fans if they aren't ever on shelf? So there's no downside to this. Get them out there, more. I'd be happy to see them. You don't want them to sit too much, but enough to sit and let a new generation fall in love with G.I. Joe. That's what they need. So bring them on. No downside here.
John, Troy, are you guys collecting the classified line? And if so, have you had problems with finding these figures?
You go ahead, John.
Okay. Yeah, I've been collecting them from the beginning, and I've had a terrible time. I live in a fairly decent sized town, but we have one Target. There's another one about a half hour away, and there's just a lot of guys that wait in line and grab the stuff. They can go every day. And so I think I got really lucky on the Viper. I happened to have to go down to Arkansas one day for work, and I stopped in at Target around 9:00, and there was one Viper on the refill stand. I snagged it. That was the only one of those I found at retail. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. As a customizer, I like to, I don't want to feel bad about cutting up a figure that's worth $70 or $80. I got things I want to do with these things. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped up about it.
Yeah.
Troy,
I'm stoked too. Yeah, I've been trying to collect the line. It's real frustrating. My hang up is I am 60 miles from my closest Target, and I was telling Mike about this during the pre-show. It's I can't go check it every day because you end up spending way more in gas than you even would buying them on at inflated prices off of eBay. So the more of them to go around, I'm not going to complain about that because I'd much rather have them out, and there's still a couple that I need to get. So I'd much rather have a chance at getting them at retail and not having to travel on a regular basis to try and look for them.
And the hope is, since Target is obviously happy with re-releasing them, that they understand the under order the first time. And the next
maybe more than one case per store. That might
and the next one's coming. Maybe I'll have a more healthy order, because I am terrified about that Breaker figure, because John's a customizer on a level that I'm not, and that basic olive green original $13 is really valuable, and then no one's going to mind having a couple extra RAM cycles around, right? So
right.
I've said in the past, I don't think they can overproduce that figure. I think people will be after it like crazy, because the dedicated customizers who like to have a bunch to work on, and maybe if it's a really good buck, they like to have a couple in waiting for projects down the road, they might buy 5, 6, 7 of Breaker if they can.
Yeah.
So, and with classified, you've kind of learned to grab, if you see something you want, grab it now. There's no coming back to get it, or there hasn't been yet.
Right.
So
exactly.
I hope this is a good sign for increased basic orders for Target moving forward.
So what you're saying here is that you are prepared to raid the Kukovich compound, guns blazing, to find that RAM cycle.
Well, I mean, you have to wear a mask. That's the only problem about not having to wear a mask right now, right? Like, they'll see me coming. Normally, if I can put a mask on, no one notices my 6'2" redheaded albino persona sliding around like a ninja for the last few years. Now I got to be more careful.
Right? It's just any hint of sunlight just gleaming off,
right,
like a laser.
Yeah, I'm like Moon Knight. I'll come out at night, and I'm pristine white, so you see me coming. That's me.
And still, somehow, never been shot.
Nope. Either of us. So
mysteries of the universe, right there.
Yeah.
Mysteries of the universe.
Yeah, Poe Dameron will play me in the movie. It's gonna be great.
Right.
Yep.
Welcome to our Facebook viewers. For the first time, we are also, in addition to our YouTube live stream, we are also on Facebook. So if you're catching us on Facebook, go ahead and just give us a like right now, because that shows up on our screen, and I'm really jazzed about it.
Do it.
So next news item.
Do.
We'll keep it in the arena of sightings. Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origin classified figures have been found in Asia. Asian fans are uploading images of in-hand figures from the upcoming movie as well. Stands to reason that these figures will be in the United States soon, as you'd think they'd want to have movie merchandise on the shelves before the movie debuts. Snake Eyes G.I. Joe Origins premieres in theaters on July 23rd. Tonight it's June 11th, so time's running out on that. So
yep.
Not a big surprise here. We figured this would come. It's maybe a week or two sooner than I had anticipated, but here it is all the same. So it's also perhaps your last time to see Akiko before she is in canon dead.
Dead woman walking.
Because that's going to happen.
Man. Isn't like the teaser sentence on their posters that released this week that she's willing to sacrifice all for the clan?
Or will defend the clan at all costs.
Yeah. That's it, right? Just put
that's called foreshadowing. Yeah.
It's
serious foreshadowing.
It's called a spoiler, man.
Right.
When she takes off her karate gi, what's under there is a Star Trek red shirt, man. That's what's going on with Akiko. Like, it's just not going to end well, right?
Poor Akiko. It's not going to go.
If she was a pro wrestler, she'd be the one in the ring already when we come back from break, right? Right? And
no entrance,
nope.
You might not even catch her name.
Yep, just
because the announce team might not know it. Like
right.
That's how dead she is.
Because the ring announcer wants to announce the fire-breathing dragon that's about to come out with all the pyro and get out of the ring quick before she gets devoured, right?
Right, and Draws Walker 9 has an observation. The Snake Eyes movie Storm Shadow is going to be a sleeper. He looks much better up close from the recent promo photos, and I'd agree with him there.
Wow, I couldn't disagree more.
Really?
I mean,
you could, but you'll be.
I suppose the bone color, just next to the flesh, doesn't work as well as the pure white, and there's almost no deco on him, almost none. He looks unfinished. So, I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
He's number 5 out of 5 for me too, but I think he looks better than he did in the previews.
I suppose you have close photos. I've shown a little bit of silver deco here and there on him, but I understand, wanting to do something a little different, but I didn't mind it in the trailer, right? I think it'll probably look better in the film than it does on the big, but leave it.
All right. So, gentlemen, anything to add on there? I don't want to push past you. You're our guests.
Nope.
No, your team.
It's a good opportunity to rip it if you don't like it.
No, I know as soon as I say I don't like them, I'll be collecting 2 or 3 of each of them. So.
Right. Probably true.
John knows how this goes.
I do. When Thomas Wheeler had a thing he did years ago, a survey back when 3 3/4 was kind of winding down, and I mean this is years ago. He was one of the main guys, that was always trying to get everybody involved in things, and he asked what everybody thought would be a great scale for the next round of GI Joes. I was the only person on the internet that whole thing that said that I thought an 8-inch line would be pretty cool. That was before Sigma 6. That was before any of this stuff. And I remember I just got totally trashed by people. They were just like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I was like, well, I actually had some 8-inch GI Joes at one time. I'm not totally pulling this out. This was really something. So I'm really careful right now before I totally slam something, because as soon as it comes out, I'm like, that's actually kind of cool, and I end up buying it anyway. So, except those new Lego sets.
Speaking of questionable GI Joe merchandise, next news item.
And the Segway Award, not for tonight, but for the whole damn year. Thank you, John. John set that up, Mike. You just dunked it.
I understand. I'm just saying that I'm going to take we're enamored with the assist, but somebody still had to score the bucket. Okay?
Yeah, it was great. Is true. Send it in, Jerome.
I mean, it's one great lob pass, but somebody had to throw that down.
That's right. So,
GI Joe licensed building toys have been spotted in Tuesday morning stores, and for our pre-show discussion, that's the closeout store for the closeout stores.
Yeah, that's the low rent Dollar General.
Yeah, that's when you can't sell at Dollar General, when you can't sell at Ross.
Yeah,
you sell it to Tuesday morning. Shoppers in the discount retailer reported building sets for several classic-themed Real American Hero vehicles from toy maker Forever Clever. You can go check out their website at foreverclever.com. Don't expect it to make much sense. It's assumed that these vehicles will each include a specific pilot, although at showtime we don't know all of the pilots. G.I. Joe offerings include a Sky Striker, Snowcat, a Surveillance Patrol Jeep, which looks kind of like a Vamp with no gun, a Ninja Speed Cycle with Snake Eyes, and the Ninja Commando 4x4, which is the Awe Striker from the movie, also with Snake Eyes. Cobra offerings include the Rattler, Hiss, Night Raven, Fang with Cobra Commander, and Ferret with Storm Shadow.
I think you got to do the quote thing when you say Night Raven.
Night Raven. It looks more like the small Rise of Cobra version of the Night Raven.
Yeah.
Prices range from approximately $3.99 to $19.99 a piece. Price is right on these things, but these are already, even by an excited buyers who are finding these things by surprise for the first time, they're not getting reviewed well. They are not happening. So yeah, basically, Matt Rubin asks, G.I. Joe building toys. And yes, G.I. Joe building toys, that is to say, knockoff Legos. Yes, there are pictures. I did not bother to share them because our guests already have a lot of images that they're going to show tonight. I don't want to kill everybody with PowerPoint, but they'll be making the rounds. It's not good. It's not good.
Maybe the best thing about them is the box art.
Yeah. In a lot of cases, it's the classic Hector Garrido art, which proves that you could probably sell an old cheese sandwich in that box and it would still sell.
But the Garrido art they're using is of the figure, right?
Well, no, only on the two sets that come with Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes,
because there isn't Garrido art for those vehicles, so they just stuck in Snake Eyes art in its place.
And my favorite part of the whole thing, both Snake, I have a problem with him putting two Snake Eyes things out there. He's the guy, fine. But the art on one of them, they used the original Snake Eyes art, the Commando, full on, G1, 013, whatever you want to say. And on the second one, they used the version 2, the sword, the wolf, all that. But the figure that comes with both of them is the exact same figure, and it's the version 2 guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that you don't want them to look identical on the shelf, but if you're going to use different art, then maybe you should have a different figure in there, right? It would just be chest and head to change, right? Just deco. But, I mean...
Can you get that memo to Hasbro on the retro line, Mark?
You know what? I know a guy. I know a couple guys, actually. But I mean, they're doing a whole month. Yojo June, which is great. And it's nice to see Joe get pushed front and center. But this wasn't announced by anybody. It was announced by some dude on Facebook who most people questioned the authenticity of it because there'd been no inkling about it. So either this was completely forgotten or it was intentionally kept quiet. And either one is an indictment of something different, right? So I'm not against building toys, and they don't look terrible. The price is certainly right, like Mike said, but I don't know, it's just a lot done suboptimally. How's that?
John Kukovich, as a customizer, what the ultimate of customizing toys are build toys. How do you feel?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've seen some pretty amazing stuff put together with building toy blocks. It's just never been my thing, but yeah, I've seen some pretty cool stuff put together with that. I could imagine at $3.99 or $6.99 a set, you know, if the pieces fit together well and hold, I could see people buying quite a few of them just to build all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, early report is they don't.
Yeah,
again, at least at $4.99 or $6.99 a shot. At least you can pick them up and find out and have it not
right.
It's not
next stop Dollar Tree.
Right.
I wonder how many Night Ravens you'd have to buy to actually build a Night Raven.
Yeah. How many Night Raven version 2s does it take to make Night Raven version 1?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to start a contest.
See?
Troy, your thoughts here? You got anything?
You know, I looking at them, they're questionable. You know, the minifigs don't do it for me. That Cobra Commander minifig looks really kind of short and squat, and I'm not sure what's going on with his helmet. But I haven't seen him in hand. That's entirely based on the pictures on the internet that I've seen. But I was kind of in that camp when they first showed them. I thought they weren't actual product. I didn't, you know, I wasn't involved in any conversations about that, but I looked at that and I'm like, oh, you know, somebody made that. You know, and then they're like, oh, no, you know, got it at Tuesday morning. And then my next question to myself was, what do you mean they got it at Tuesday morning?
I'm sitting there thinking, the G1er guy got rights to do boxes?
Yeah, that's like...
But then I looked at it again, I was like, wait, no, the G1er stuff looks a lot better than that. What is this all about?
I was wondering, how does Tuesday morning source stuff? Because it's like, where did this come from?
Yeah, I mean, again, when your big retailers, your Targets, your Walmarts decide they don't want a product or they clearance a product, they pass it down to a wholesaler, which is a Big Lots or a Ross or a TJ Maxx. And then when those stores decide they don't want it and they wholesale something out even worse, it goes to Tuesday morning. So this is a couple of steps down. Makes me wonder what the planned retail price was for these, you know? I mean, it's $4 for the little ninja bike with snake eyes here. Were they going to try and get us for 12 on that the first time around?
Man, this is straight to video, right? Starring Eric Roberts. That's pretty much what we're looking at here.
It's like an Aquaman sequel starring Roman Reigns. It's just not.
Aquadude.
It looks kind of right, but it's not really right. Whenever he's on TV, I always refer to him as direct-to-video Aquaman, and it makes Rob laugh. So, anyways, that's the news. All right. I was about to say, I mean, you know, because if you didn't have sound effects, we were going to find somebody.
Oh! I've been replaced.
Joe Colton is in the house, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Joe.
Hello.
Let's figure out. Let's get you up in the top row. Get Troy out of here.
I got demoted to the bottom row.
Oh, it's okay. I don't mind.
You got to keep the sides, you know, split just in case something breaks out.
That's right. Get out of here. Shoo. We don't want you thinking that we don't want people thinking you're going to be a regular.
Don't get too comfortable. We got Wonder Woman on our side.
That's terrible, but that's the news. Thank goodness. Lord knows it's hard to report sightings on a live stream, right? Imagine, if you will, you're walking in the Target. Anyway.
We could do a live stream of us each walking in our own targets and finding nothing.
Not me. Go ahead. That's fine. You and Mike have a ball.
Outside, I'm not going in.
Yeah.
Hey, kid, $20 to go in.
This is me in the Target parking lot showing a whole different finger. Beer.
Good Lord. Well, anyways, that closes up the news, and it brings us to why we've got such a crowded house tonight. And let's to give a platform to Troy and John's new project. As we announced at the beginning of the program, they are Grindstone Toys, and they are here to show off Callsign Longbow. Take it away, gentlemen.
Well, thanks again for having us on, guys. We really appreciate it. So, yeah, this week, or really last week, I guess we started really pushing on social media with Longbow. For some folks that were around at Joe Fest in 2019, we had done a panel. The company had a different name at the time, but we had done a panel to kind of gauge interest and to see if there was what we thought was enough interest to pursue an O-ring product line. And it was received pretty well. We got good feedback, and we decided that was something we wanted to move forward with, and we started kind of redesigning the product line based on the feedback we got at the show and feedback we got from our factory reps. But we had this idea that we were going to have a Kickstarter that was going to go live in 2020. And then 2020 happened. And that Kickstarter did not happen.
No, it's probably for the best.
Yeah. And it was rough. John and I both have day jobs, and we were both essential employees at those day jobs. And, I can't speak to anybody else, but my day job essentially tripled in size overnight when COVID started. So, it's one of those things that kind of got pushed back. But we, like I said, we've been redesigning and adjusting some of the stuff that we thought was going to be our first series got pushed back to the second. Some of the stuff that we thought was second series is getting moved up. So we've been working. Work has never stopped on the project. We just had a very different pace through 2020.
I can only imagine, as somebody who bounced from into and out of employment several times over the course of 2020 alone. Yeah, it was a heck of a year. I can only imagine trying to throw another log on that fire. That's really what it was a fire.
Yeah.
So Joe and I were present for your present in 2019, so we remember that one, and
Yep.
There was some other great stuff there as well. But we're here to talk about Callsign Longbow. So what's the backstory for this particular project?
John, you wanna talk about it a little bit? Have I talked to him
about Longbow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
I hope one of you does. Come on.
Yeah. Okay, so it is a line with a storyline that takes place in 1986, and we wanted to keep this as classic as possible. We wanted to keep everything period type to where everybody kind of felt like these figures fit in with other things that happened in the 1980s. And so this group of guys, their job is to disrupt Soviet plans across the globe, and that is how the story starts out. We send a recon team on a mission, and they find out some pretty bad stuff, and then the story takes off from there. So that's what we started with, and then I will tell you, just in almost the last 8 months, Troy and I have redeveloped the storyline, and we've just really tweaked this thing so that a storyline could last for multiple waves if we wanted. For the Kickstarter, we have really focused on getting the most out of a small amount of molds. And so we're pretty proud of what we've done there, and pretty excited about showing that to people because it's pretty cool, and it's a lot like another company. Their first round was kind of using the same molds over and over and doing some pretty clever things with them, and that's kind of what we're doing too.
Yeah, like John said, it's set in the 80s. We really kind of envision story-wise, someday we'd like to do a comic, but we really envision it kind of having the tone like an 80s action movie, right? That's the kind of pace we want to set up with stuff. And a big piece of kind of the development of the whole line in general, not just stuff for the initial Kickstarter, but things we'd like to do afterwards is, we had conversations about what were the kinds of things that we wanted as collectors and as kids back in the day that we didn't get. Like, what's missing out of some of those vintage O-ring toy lines that we'd like to see. So that's kind of where we led off from. So that's kind of the backstory on where Longbow comes from. We do have some stuff to show you guys. So the hardest thing, at least for me, over the last week and a half, as we've been prepping stuff, and we've been doing some character reveals now for a month, but we've really kind of been ratcheting up stuff here, is what do we show and when do we show it? Because it's really easy for me to turn around and show everything. So it's really hard to sit down and say, I'm only showing this one thing today. So we are going to show a couple of things. I will say up front, we are not going to show any sculpts tonight. We are saving that for Joe Fest. I will say our factory rep hooked us up with a sculptor who worked on the Real American Hero line in the early 90s. And yesterday we got a set of renders back on the first digital sculpt, and they're sick. They're really good, but we're not going to show those tonight. We're going to give the sculptor another 2 weeks here to do additional revisions and stuff before we show that. But anyway, we are very, very excited with how that is going. But we do have a couple of other things to show. And we'll just kind of talk about, development and how those figures happen. So I'm going to just screen share here real quick. So, like most things, we start with concept art and then we go on to, input drawings or sculpt drawings, where we try and, put together what we want the figure to look like. Now, if you were following us on social media this last week, you'll know that on Monday we shared pictures of our sculpting buck, which is a, kind of like a blank engineering figure that then the sculptor can work over the top of. So we take that buck even at this early stage when we're doing input drawings, and I essentially draw over the top of it to make sure that we get the proportions right. And you can see that we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that we get details correct, that they look like figures that you would have had as a kid, even down to things like the drafts where stuff pulls away on the sides of the details and things. We put a lot of thought into those details. We put a lot of thought into, if some of these body parts are in a tool with another figure, how we make those work, how we make those colors work. So there's a lot of thought that kind of goes into that. John, do you have anything else to add at this point?
No, not on this slide, I don't think.
Okay. Let's see. Stop sharing that one. Let's see. What do we want to show them next? We want to show them some deco, or we want to show them weapon sculpts?
Oh, let's show them weapon sculpts.
Yeah.
Let's show weapon sculpts. Okay.
Yeah, just show it all. It's fine.
We won't tell anyone.
There's a button on the bottom that says show all.
The weapons, the weapons. So this is some of the weapons that we've put together for the Kickstarter. And John and I modeled most of these, or actually all of these. So you get kind of a feel for what they look like. It should look like stuff that you had as a kid. And that really has been kind of a driving focus, like I said, on details and stuff. So, they come out. There's a picture. The sculpting buck is here in this image, so you can get an idea of scale. How they look. So those have come along really nicely. And then real quick, I'm going to jump over here because we actually have a couple of those 3D printed already. And those came out really, really nice. These are high quality prints. The grenade, we have two grenades. We have an American style and a Soviet style grenade. They fit so well in the figure's hands. And we tried them in the hands of our figure buck to make sure that those proportions work. But we also tried all the weapons in a couple of different vintage figure lines in hands from those vintage figures to make sure that things fit and that things were sized correctly and that it would work with stuff that you've already got, right?
If you put that grenade in a vintage beachhead's hand,
mm-hmm.
Will it break his crotch?
It probably will,
Yes.
because that's all connected, and any pressure on any of those body parts is going to break the crotch.
That's not on you.
No, that is not on us. That is not on us. The grenade's really cool the way that it fits, because they kind of hold the top of it, and you can place the thumb inside the ring, and it kind of holds in place. It's really slick. So that came out really nice.
Which is a good time to bring up the fact that we have already shown this on the buck, but the buck is very similar to older construction style, but we have added a swivel wrist to it, and that wrist will be made out of a slightly softer plastic so that we can avoid the broken thumbs. And as far as the waist issue, the waist has a slight rib in it to help keep that from happening. So the buck does have some improvements over past things, but we really wanted it to seem classic. And the hands are just another nod to a Hasbro design when they did 12-inch heads back in the 90s, and how those popped off. That same style of joint is how they go together. So you just warm them up in some hot water and pop them off. Yeah, it's a pretty cool design feature, really.
I would say so. And also, if you bust a thumb, it's not just you're not tossing it out and happen to get a whole new figure.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I mean, theoretically, right, they're going to be swivel wrist on a post. I mean, theoretically, right, like for customizers, or even if you break a figure, you should be able to heat that up with a blow dryer and pop it off and swap out the hands, right? So you can decide you want a guy to have gloves, or you want him to not have gloves, or whatever the case might be. It's just that extra customization. And then that, as a designer, the thing that I really dig about that is now if I'm reusing those arms, because we're doing a different character, but I've got to reuse that arm tooling, I don't necessarily have to have the same set of hands, and I can at least make it look a little bit different where the whole thing is not the same. It allows some additional combinations, which I always like. Let's see here. We'll show. Let me bring up a deco sheet here real quick. These are kind of preliminary deco sheets. So here's the deco sheet for Coyote without the call outs. But you can see, I mean, it looks like a pretty traditional O-ring figure. All the parts are where they're supposed to be. It comes with an accessory. We don't have this sculpted yet, but we designed this gas mask. And the way that we're hoping to produce it is that this will come as a single piece with the canister attached here. And the end user, the consumer, will actually twist that off, and there will be a hole in the back to attach it to the front of the gas mask there. So it'll look like a real gas mask, even though it kind of looks like this here. But you can see, I mean, we want you to feel somewhat nostalgic about this stuff, right? Like John was saying, we want you to be able to put this on a shelf with vintage figures and feel like they all kind of go together. So we've got that. Let's bring up another one here. Here's one of the Soviets with some camo.
I want you to know I brought one of my classic beachheads up, and it broke the crotch.
Mm-hmm.
Not really, no.
Serves you right.
If you looked at it, it probably broke the crotch.
Troy, can you zoom in on this a little closer?
You bet. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if you guys want to look at something, or if something, you want to see something bigger.
Yeah, I want
holler.
to see. I want to see the middle shot here. Zoom in there as close as you can on the belt.
Okay.
All right, now pan up a little bit. All right. I really like how you've hid the torso cut on this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right?
knew.
I'm
Oh
not
my
seeing
God.
any brutal chest cut here in the middle. How are you ever gonna pivot this guy to pose him?
Well, what it is this piece covers up that joint, and then we just have them glue it on in the factory. That way you don't see that mid torso joint.
Because it's an O-ring figure though. It's articulated fully at the waist, right?
Yes, yes, it is.
So you can accomplish that same level of posing without ruining the aesthetic of the entire figure.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. That's really good. I'm digging that like crazy. I mean, there's a lot to like here, right? but to be maybe the only guys out there accepting that basic truth and keeping your figure looking shiny, I'm full on applause right there, right? So good. Yeah, give it up. Give it up, Joe Colton. Tough crowd.
Well, we knew, there is to kind of go along with your point there, Mark. There is, we think, a fair number of folks that enjoy that addition or that original O-ring aesthetic, right? And I love modern figures. And I work on a lot of different product lines for modern figures. I work on stuff for Marauder. I work on stuff for Dime Novel Legends. I do some packaging stuff on Action Force. I love modern figures. But I also really love those vintage O-ring figures. There is something about, those, and it's your first one, right? And there's something about that no matter how much I love the other stuff, I am always going to love an O-ring figure.
Well, and I like that you're not totally slavish, right, to the classic Joe design, because the wrist swivel is a huge improvement, right? And there's especially with gloves or long sleeves, there's a natural cut there, right? So by and large, you can make that work. But, I like that, you don't have to add in something that looks bad just because that's what everybody's doing right now. So,
and it just, the wrist thing, that all came together because we got that additional articulation, we got the additional customization, and we solved one of the reoccurring issues that figure design has. And that, you're checking off all three of those boxes. Why would we not follow up and try and make that happen? And we got some good feedback from our factory about that. There's just, that makes all the sense in the world when you stop and think about it. So, yeah.
And yet nobody else can seem to figure it out. But whatever. We're not talking about them. I like what you guys are doing.
We got one more deco here to show. I have lots of other decos, but I don't want to just do the same stuff over and over again. But this is one where we had tooling and that Spetsnaz Trooper tooling, and we need to figure out. So it's that same figure you just saw. We need to figure out a way, if we have to reuse that tooling, where we're going to deco it where it looks really unique. Because that's the thing. If we have to reuse tooling, we want to make it look different so it feels like it's a different figure. So here is that same body with a different head. Just as we don't have this character entirely figured out because it's just kind of a generic Slavic guy in a tracksuit right now. But there's actually a whole meme on the internet about Slavs squatting in tracksuits. There's a Facebook page dedicated to it and everything. But it's this thing. But it's we never got anything quite like this in the 80s. But this is the kind of thing that a collector wouldn't mind having a couple of these, and you can use them, for kind of stuff in the Balkans or something, or if you need a bank robbery or whatever. It just shows that we can be creative with the decos if we need to reuse those tools. And like John said, part of our plan to make this economical where we can do it is we're going to start out with a very limited number of tools in the Kickstarter. And then as we get to some higher stretch goals, once we've banked enough money, we'll unlock some additional tooling where we can do more unique stuff. But it's just, it's just a matter of, like I said, if we have to reuse something, we want to make sure we make it look really different. So let's see, what else have we not shown here? So some of the feedback that we got at Joe Fest 2 years ago was we didn't have any female figures in the line. And I know Joe particularly made that clear to me.
She threw a
right?
chair at you.
I did
Right.
not throw a chair at him. I
It
love
wasn't-
Troy.
I mean,
It wasn't a chair. She flipped over a table. But so
I am taking cover, so I'm purely going by sound effect.
Whatever.
So here's the news for you, Joe, because this is a little bit of a mixed bag.
Okay.
We are going to do female figures. We did develop a female buck. We do want to move forward with that. As of right now, that's probably not going to be part of the initial Kickstarter. That would be a second series thing. But we do have one set of drawings. We'll go ahead and show you now.
Okay.
For one character.
So excited.
I'm telling you, through the table.
So this would be the first female character in the line, and this is one of our.
Great.
Huh?
Bam.
So yeah, if we can make this work the way we think, I will be real happy with the way this turns out. The legs are actually the same size as on the male figure. We designed an entirely separate buck that John engineered for the female figures that has the arms are slightly smaller than on a male figure. The waist is slightly shorter than on a male figure, so that they have more feminine proportions. But I think it will come out real good. So this is what we're planning in the future.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, Ben says stretch goals. I agree with Ben.
We are always open to seeing what we can do, but I think after conversations with their factory, I think we're going to hold off on this.
She looks great. I like the proportions. It looks like an actual like female should look in a figure, not like Rob Liefeld's friggin' drawings.
Yeah.
God, I hate that guy.
I tried using our standard male buck to draw up this same character, and it was just too limiting, and height was an issue. Part of the problem too, I mean, ideally, right, this hair would be a separate piece. Obviously, you can see over on the left-hand side is what one looks like without any paint, or what we think it would look like without any paint. On a male figure, if you put that hair on a male figure, it actually sits taller than most of the male figures. And it's okay to have, a couple of tall girls, but we don't want all the female characters to be.
I'm okay with that, but probably not everybody.
I know.
I mean, also, if you put that hair on a male figure, it automatically puts him in Whitesnake.
Yes.
Yeah. And it is the 80s, so I mean, we could make that work.
Fits right in.
Anyway.
So anyway, and that's like I said, we're going to have sculpts at the presentation at Joe Fest on the 27th. But we're also going to be talking about the stuff we want to do after the Kickstarter. So that is kind of a preview of some of those things that we want to do after the Kickstarter. Like I said, some of the stuff that we had originally had planned got pushed back to Series 2. We had to make some tweaks to some things, and we really do want to build this for long term. We would like this to be a long, ongoing thing. We would like to do figures every year if we can, and really have a regular, consistent product line. So we will be talking a little bit about that too, not just where we want to go in the short term in the next year or so here, but where we want to go long term after that.
Yeah, the vehicles and the play sets.
We'll be discussing those kinds of things.
See what I did? Okay.
Yeah, so we've got that. The other thing we've got for you guys tonight is we actually, we've been doing these character reveals. And we actually have a bonus character because we've been doing one every Wednesday, but we've got a bonus character here that we are going to show for the first time here on What's on Joe Mind. And right now at cslongbow.com, we have the little kind of bio about this guy up and running. But this is a Soviet VDV trooper, and the VDV is essentially it's the Russian airborne forces. And this is a named character. I'm gonna butcher this because my Russian is so bad. But his call sign is Maisnik, which is butcher in Russian. And this guy is he works for Volk, which is the character that we showed on Wednesday. And this guy is like a really sadistic bad guy, and he's really into knife fighting, and he's kind of unhinged, I guess I would say, personality wise. And this figure, I know with the two straps it may look similar to that Spetsnaz figure, but actually this guy has no tooling in common with the Spetsnaz figure. This will actually be a separate body completely, obviously, because it has rolled up sleeves. But anyway, so that's, like I said, this is the first time we're showing it off. This is some fantastic Rod Wiggum art. He's a longtime Joe artist, and he's been doing these for us, and I'm so excited that we get to work with him on stuff. And I love the art style because it looks like vintage comic. And because of the way it's drawn, I can actually color one of these real quickly. So they're a ton of fun to work on. So like I said, that's an exclusive here. So anybody watching this now or in the future, this is a new one here for What's on Joe Mind. So,
and we appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. You bet.
Is it okay if we tag everything else you do as What's on Joe Mind exclusives?
Absolutely. That's You can tell them the product's yours afterwards. That's
As long as the money goes to you guys, right?
That's right. That's right. No publicity is bad publicity, right?
Well, I don't know if you've been at Tuesday morning lately.
We're going back to the building set.
We're hoping to avoid Tuesday morning if at all possible.
Let's be honest.
Please. I have to go all the way down to Manassas to get to one.
We're all hoping to avoid Tuesday morning.
Joe Colton, is Russian one of the 13 languages that you speak?
No, but I can read Russian. Yes, I can read Russian.
All right, fair enough.
I took an intro to Russian class, and
how'd that go?
I'm okay. Easy. I'm okay until we get to those letters that are the same symbol as what we have, but they're a different sound.
Yeah.
Because what is it? It's the I can't remember if it's the R makes the P sound or the P makes the R sound. Like that just screwed me up.
The R makes the P sound. I think. Yeah.
I think the only Russian I know I learned from Colossus. So it's all Buzzboy and By the White Wolf and Great Lenin's Ghost and
Sure.
Tovarish,
yeah. Old good friend.
So
terrible. Fastball special.
Little snowflake. Don't cry, little snowflake.
I have a question. For those that aren't going to be going to Joe Fest, are you recording the panel?
So we haven't had anybody ask about recording the panel.
Can you record the panel?
We might look into that. I guess there's two schools of thought on that. I guess we could record the panel.
Or live stream it.
Or we still need content to keep dripping out until the Kickstarter gets going. So it might be the kind of thing where we hold some of that back and drip it out online. like I was saying, it's hard for me to decide what not to show, because I really like, it would be easy for me to just show all the like sketches and stuff that I have for things that aren't even developed.
I'm totally okay with that.
But yeah, it's sometimes it's better, I know, if we just do one thing at a time. But I guess we'd be willing to have that conversation if we can find somebody to record.
Okay.
I don't know that we'd do it, but we'd be willing to talk about
Okay.
Mark Weber will be at Joe Fest. He is.
Yeah, well,
he is a technical expert of two podcasts now. So
right.
There you go.
I can totally screw it up. So if the P makes an R sound, does that make them threat snaps?
Oh.
Just, I mean, I don't want to make a fool out of myself.
It's just
more often than necessary.
It is so hard to read, and I don't read well to start with, and then I get into that, and there's
Cyrillic language, so it's like I grew up on it, so I'm a freak too.
John speaks Russian.
there you go. He's got the basics.
and we did a lot of research on the Soviets to make sure we got things right. We watched Rocky IV and Red Dawn and Top Gun. I mean, we actually, like I said, we want to do a comic at some point, and we have like a recommended reading list for anybody that we might find to help us write. And it's all those kinds of movies, and Tom Clancy books and stuff like that. It's, like I said, we want it to feel like an 80s action movie. So the good guys need to be these big kind of over the top heroes, and the bad guys need to be really evil Soviets. So yeah, it's, I think it's a fun concept. And for us, Hasbro obviously in the 80s specifically avoided having the Soviets as a main foil for G.I. Joe, because they were worried, about the political ramifications, and those kind of things. And since that country literally doesn't exist anymore, we can do whatever we want, right? The Soviet embassy is not going to call up and yell at us because we, portrayed them in an unpleasant light, or we made fun of the Politburo or something. We can have our bad guys be bad guys, and not worry about constantly trying to, make it a shade of gray or something. So that's fun.
Well, yeah, and it lets you avoid what has become dicey about Classic Cobra, is the ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world, right? Yeah, I think that's really clever to be able to cast pure villains that nobody's going to argue about, right? Like modern day Russians probably aren't going to say, the old Russians not so bad, really get bad rap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Run into that.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, it didn't make sense 40 years ago. It makes great sense now. Same thing with those swivel wrists. We can make that improvement. Let's make that improvement.
Throw some stuff out to the folks who are watching us now. Of course, start getting your questions ready. Looks like we're going to have a couple of minutes to do some Q&A with the folks who are here in the live stream. Of course, if you are watching, give our video a like. If you're watching us on Facebook, go ahead and thumbs up that video now so we know you're here. Really appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Question I've got for you guys is the specific characters. What process went into determining what type of guys you wanted on this team? Like, what were you trying to? Are you using Joes as templates? Are you trying to fill in the holes that maybe didn't get filled with the original team? Because obviously, I mean, I don't think I'm overstating things by saying G.I. Joe is obviously a basic template for what you do. Obviously it molded you as a fan years and years ago.
Sure, it's an influence for sure.
Right.
But I mean, so all those 80s O-ring lines, even non-O-ring stuff. I'm a big Mask fan. It helps shape who you are. We did look for specialties that maybe did not exist in other lines, or kind of to get them in there. So we have done a lot of development work. John and I have both written a number of characters and gotten this thing ready to go. And we have a brand Bible that's right at about 100 pages right now, that we have just been cranking out stuff. And we even know like the structure of the unit and like how many guys are in a section, how many fire teams are in a section, how many, sections are in a fire team, how many fire team or sections are in a platoon, kind of things. So interestingly enough, our 4 kind of core guys that we're going to focus in, in the Kickstarter and beyond, we didn't really pick necessarily specialties that hadn't been done before, but we were really careful to break up this 4-man fire team into groups where they would kind of interact as pairs. 2 of them are Army guys, one's a Marine, one's a SEAL. So it's 2 Department of Army guys, 2 Department of Navy guys. But, SEALs and Marines kind of have a rivalry. On the Army side, one of them's a Green Beret and one of them's a Delta Force guy. And there was in the 80s, we've read about, there were some, when Delta was originally created, there were guys in the Green Berets that had been doing that job essentially prior to Delta's creation. And they were not happy about somebody else coming in to take the job. And when Delta was created, they all refused to go out for it. I was reading this story about that. So even our 2 Army guys, like sometimes it's these weird pairings where the Delta guy and the Marine guy get along really well, but there is a little bit of tension sometimes between our guys because that's how people are. I think that's especially when you're doing something for kids, everybody gets along. Everybody on the team gets along, and you don't necessarily always get into that stuff. But especially with a collector's focused line, we want these to feel like real people. And you have conflicts with people that you work with. Sometimes they're not big conflicts, sometimes they're little conflicts, but that is true anytime people are working together. So the 4 kind of guys that we want to focus on once we get going didn't necessarily follow that template where they were things that we hadn't gotten before, but we did try and put a lot of thought into kind of some of the ways that they interact with each other. But we have lots of guys where like we said, well, there wasn't a guy that was X, so we need to make a guy that does that. And then we start doing research into, what kinds of schools that guy might have attended in the 70s and 80s in the military to have that kind of specialty, and that helps us kind of shape who that person is. John, you got anything to add there since you've been writing a lot of them here?
Yeah, well, I would say that as far as character design goes, when you start seeing them, there's going to be a lot of archetypes, characters that you've seen in movies that, oh, I recognize that costume because that's what so-and-so wore in this movie. Not exactly, but you'll recognize some of those and things that, fell off the wagon that Hasbro may not have ever done. They may have one time planned on it, but they never did. So we may do some of that kind of stuff, we don't want to rehash anything, but we really, the thing is, one thing that always bothered me was that in the G.I. Joe line, almost anybody that is Air Force is a pilot. And you've got some pretty elite Air Force guys out there that served in Vietnam, that, served through the 80s, as elite forces. So, when I first came on board and started talking to Troy about this, I was like, I really kind of want to bring in one of these guys. And, so there's been a lot of that. And most people, you don't think about an Air Force guy being on a team like that. So we kind of set up separate teams. And like Troy said, there is an entire base full of characters, and we're just going to focus on a few at a time and tell these smaller stories that will eventually lead to a bigger story. But, you asked about design, and that is one of the things that I noticed when Troy puts stuff together like this. He usually has an archetype in mind or a character that he wants it to, he wants to spark that memory. It's not just about being totally accurate or, oh, well, those guys never would have possibly done this. Well, in our world, those guys may have had to do that because they're part of this Callsign Longbow, which is a special group. So, we just want a way to throw these guys together, bring in some characters that people hadn't seen before, and explain things in more detail. Like if you really were going to have a firefighter on an elite Delta Force type team, why? What what qualifications does that person have? So that's what anything that we're doing that is outside of like a normal military specialty, we're digging in and trying to figure out what would actually make them military. So not that we're going to have a fireman on the team, unfortunately. But
first crowd question: are the characters based on people you know in terms of foibles and quirks?
Sometimes,
yes. Some of them are. I'm not going to lie. Some of them are based on people that we know. And some of them, I work with a couple of guys who are former military who were in during the Cold War. So there are bits and pieces of that. I think anytime that you're putting together a character, you're writing a character, right? Bits and pieces of yourself or people that you know wind up in there. I don't think there's a way for that not to happen at some level, right? It might be something, a really minor detail, but it just comes through because that's that's who you are as a person, and as you have that output, that's going to be gonna shade how that comes out. So.
And when you're trying to show how two people interact, it's really easy to grab, to think about somebody at work or somebody that you knew a few years ago and be like, that is something they would have said all the time. And so you just make that a personality trait. So, I mean, it's not like you're copying wholesale, but it's really easy. You don't want everything to sound like it's me and Troy. Right. So, the characters have to be different than us. And the best way to do that is to just dive in and think of other people and how they interact and how they present themselves and say, like, this guy would be kind of like this person. Or, there's been a ton of writing. The way we write their files out is pretty cool. Tell a little bit about their background, usually how they got their file, their code name, their call sign, just because that's always, it's always one of those things. Like, not everybody's call sign is just because of what they do in the military. Some people got a call sign maybe for a reason that they didn't like at first, but then they embraced it, and that's just their name now. So
like Fumbles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dr. Fumbles.
Biff McHonky Donk asks, will there be any Easter egg custom figures, like familiar characters you can put together using parts from multiple release toys?
You're going to have to wait to find out.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey, along those same lines, guys, we've all found that our vintage O-ring figures aged kind of poorly from a legs staying connected to torso perspective. So I don't say I assume, but I would assume these figures can be taken apart kind of like the classic 3 3/4 Joe. Because eventually they'll need new O-rings, right? Just like they all do, right?
Still a screw in the back, easy to disassemble. 4 rivets. Right now, our kind of engineering headache is getting the proper rivets for the arms. But we're, like I said, we want them to look vintage, so we're following up on that with a couple of different sources. But legs will screw together the traditional way at the thigh, and the back will screw together. So
cool.
Yeah.
And Matt Rubin asked the $64,000 question: when do you think the Kickstarter will open?
We'd really like to aim for spring of 2022, preferably about the time people are getting their tax returns. That is, we think that's the hot time to hit. But at the show on the 27th and on the 26th beforehand, John and I are going to be walking around, and we are going to be handing out. We've got some feedback forms and we've got some swag. Let me see, what did I do with the swag here? Oh, right here. We will have some feedback forms, and we are going to be asking about when the best time for a Kickstarter is. And what kind of feedback, like what kind of things do you want to see that you haven't seen? And then we will have these Longbow unit patches that we will be giving out. And there's just a little card on the back that says, hey, keep an eye out for the Kickstarter, and gives a little brief description. But like I said, John and I will be handing these out. We'll also have those feedback forms, fill them out, give them back to us. And what we're going to do is we are going to do some giveaways based on the feedback forms. So if you fill out the feedback form, You know, John and I are going to do a couple of sketch cards. If you win, you know, we'll do your favorite Longbow character. We also have some early 3D prints of some of the guns that we had done for sizing. So, you know, they don't have all the details on them, and they might not be the finished version, but we had them done to make sure that they fit in the hands right and that they weren't too long or too short or whatever. So we're going to be giving some of those away too. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for us on the show floor. We'll have some Grindstone shirts that we'll be wearing on the 27th for sure. Yeah, we'll be there wandering around. So
awesome. Let's go ahead and bring it on into the station. We'll pull in and do some shout outs. Gentlemen, you're our guests. Why don't you go first? Is there anybody, Troy McKie, we'll start with you. Shout outs. Who do we want to give recognition to?
Well, week? I want to shout out to you guys for having us on. We really appreciate it. You guys are our first media appearance.
Right?
So
it's all uphill from here.
It is
all downhill from here, baby.
So that's a big deal for us, and we appreciate the support. Like I said, I know we feel like there's a fairly good sized O-ring contingent where people still want that. And I just want to shout out John, you know, who's obviously my partner in this whole thing. I couldn't do any of this without him. You know, I got lots of ideas, but he really helps me take those kind of to the next level and to make them a reality. Because I would just sketch stuff all the time and not make any progress. And John helps keep me on track. So.
Okay.
Good balance.
Hey, it really is a good balance. Troy is extremely creative, and a lot of this actually came from an idea he had several years ago. So he knew what he wanted to do with this, and when I found out this is what he was doing, I had to be part of it. I was like, this is the coolest thing, and so
awesome.
Did we lose John right in the middle of his shout out? Did we lose John?
Right.
Possibly.
He thanked you and hit eject.
That deeply contented look. We should
not it out. He's fooling us.
We need to give him the Phil Donnelly treatment and freeze frame for ourselves at the same time.
Did he have a stroke? Is he?
And go. Okay.
You just sent me a message. He'll be back, maybe.
Sure. But yeah,
he's just playing possum. Come on now.
Perhaps for the long-suffering family that's had to deal with you while you worked on this stuff.
Yeah. So since I've got John's time now, yeah, I would. I'd like to thank my wife and daughter, obviously, because they put up with this. Because lots of times I'm working late into the night, so I appreciate that. I'd also like to give a shout out to my folks, because my mother and my daughter are the ones that put all of these patches on these backers and
child labor,
those kinds of things. So you know, I couldn't do it without my family too. So I'll give them the shout out now that I've got the time.
Child labor and geriatric labor.
So on some level, it's Callsign. Where's Dad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's yeah. We're so we will be. You know, like I said, we're doing the swag, and we're going to do those giveaways. If you win, you should not expect to hear from us until sometime in July, because when this show is over, I have a week where I'm not allowed to work on anything. Where we're going to do some family time. So yeah, but
that's a good idea.
Until then, it is as hard as we can go till Joe Fest. So
and
try
then
to get as much stuff done as we can.
And then Operation Save Your Marriage.
Yeah.
Smart man. Well played, Troy.
Hey, Joe Colton, while we're waiting for John to come back, how about you give some shout outs?
She's waiting.
Wait, apparently. Do you still have the train going in the background? Okay.
Yeah, I'll go.
Mark Weber, give us some shout outs.
Hey, two easy ones. My buddy Jimmy Underhill, one of my oldest friends in the whole world, who moved to Rhode Island first and then just abandoned me and moved to Arizona. So what the hell, Jimmy? But my a good friend and my goalie on my soccer team in high school, It's his birthday today. So shout out to Goalie God, Jimmy Underhill. And then to one of my oldest friends in the industry from McFarlane Toys, Rachel Van Nortwick, who's a really good friend who has helped me out with some job networking stuff lately, which is always good. So to Rachel, to Jimmy, love you both. Happy birthday, Jimmy, and RVN, thanks for the help.
There we go. Rob's got this pegged out. Kickstarter stretch goal, Operation Second Honeymoon.
Now we're talking to Russia. Russia is beautiful.
Oh,
He won't be able to pronounce anything.
no.
John, we'll come back to you here since we managed to make the whole hour of something.
I know.
Cut off, and then bam, right at the end, we got a freeze frame of John.
It
So
was a good freeze though.
did you have any shout outs that we didn't get to?
Just one. Other than what I was saying about Troy, also one of the other guys that's kind of a big part of the community that really gave me my first modeling gig, Raging Spoon, doing stuff with him in Complex has been an absolute pleasure. I love working with him on our projects with Complex, and we got new stuff coming out there. But I'd be remiss to bring up the fact that I think Troy kind of used Paul as my to see if I knew what I was talking about when it came to engineering and modeling. So if it wasn't for Raging Spoon, I probably wouldn't even have this gig. So
How about that? Stealth shout out for Paul, former guest of the program, Paul Kirkstein. Joe Colton, who we got on shout outs from the sunroom, now train free?
You guys every week. I love our podcast. And to our guests, I haven't seen them in a very long time, and I am so excited for their product coming out. And when it does on Kickstarter, do support them because we all are in the same community and we need to support each other.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, who is very supportive of my work and my hobby of collecting action figures, he doesn't know that I will be contributing to a new 3 3/4 figure line, but that's okay. I won't get a divorce yet.
I mean, it's a little quick for that, right?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
We don't see everything on the program. We don't know. Just let her talk and don't react.
This is how we got the watermelon thing last time.
Good grief! Come on, Honcho! Don't get the live crowd too fired up. Come on.
No. He does yard work. He's a keeper.
And he dug a walkway, so
We know he's a keeper, but he might wise up someday.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Tough. And then it was Maggie's birthday on Sunday or Monday.
Yeah.
Yes, and we celebrated Sunday, so a shout out to her. And I made her cry on her birthday. It was great.
Aw.
You punch her?
No, we have this thing where we give each other cards that like make each other cry, like on our birthdays or Christmas.
It's the one time of the year they allow one another to be girls in front of one another.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then they go back to kicking ass.
And they just go back to punching one another. Yeah.
Yeah. Her boyfriend finds it very odd and uncomfortable. And so like I have written now longer cards to make him feel even more uncomfortable.
That adds an extra layer of entertainment to it for you, though.
Yeah. And she loves it until she gets the card. And it's just like, it's like both sides and then the back. Or I write really small to fit.
That's like a high school Valentine, right?
Yeah.
And another thing.
Figuring out how to use the laser printer.
I'm an awful best friend.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Like Wes was like, "What are you doing? Like, you have to stop your speech." Like,
Oh, goodness.
that's who I'm shouting out to.
You know, if it works out for Maggie and this guy who I don't know, maybe there's a maid of honor speech down the road. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
The tears will flow.
Yeah.
And we're
Will fly.
The mascara waterfall. It's gonna be amazing.
So it won't be COVID during hers. So it'll be videotaped like normal people have their wedding, and so it'll be amazing.
So
I mean,
good.
Mark, you remember Joe's wedding? It was beautiful. Right?
Gorgeous. It was a black motif.
Right.
Yeah.
We were sitting in a room much like this, only there was no wedding going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And a nice lady heckled me for falling asleep after an hour of blackness.
Yeah.
That would be
Not so nice.
Wes's mom. Wes's mom heckled Poncho.
Yeah. I think Mark's asleep. No, I'm not. I'm here.
He totally was.
I think I was.
He was totally asleep.
In my defense, it was like an hour. It was like an
signal.
hour. It was an hour in. So
Yeah,
So I live near a military base, and so we had helicopters, and then lack of internet went out, and so it was awful.
Yeah, the Zoom wedding did not so much Zoom.
Yeah.
It was good times.
it was dark for a long time, and then someone came on and said, "I don't know what happened, but it's over."
They're married.
Yeah, okay.
And they didn't tell us until 2 hours later.
That's fine. I wouldn't have told you either. I would have said it went great.
Oh,
Deal with that later.
Yeah,
it was bad. I was like, what? And
Yeah, I wouldn't
yeah.
have told you at all. I would have said it went great.
I mean, until months later when we can milk laughs out of it on a crappy
Yeah.
podcast.
It was still funny.
Anyways.
Oh,
gonna
and
give a shout out-
hey, I just want to hop on one thing Joe said. For all you people who are saying, we really want O-ring, right? We really want that vintage feel. You're out there, what I see online all the time, right?
bitching and complaining.
You cannot afford to miss this, right?
Yeah.
This, you know what? This sounds like what you say you want. So let's go, people.
We really hope it is.
Yeah, you don't need to use your wallet to type, but I know you got one. So
Totally gonna share the fuck out of this.
yeah. Oh, where jar? So anyway.
Oh, come on!
Yeah.
I made it almost.
That's the swear jar brought to you by all the cool stuff and McClure's Pickles. So remember to help Joe Colton out. Visit our coffee donation page and buy her some swears for the swear jar. Because Lord knows she rings up a tab.
Yeah.
I'll give some shout outs, of course, to the unsung fourth man of the What's on Joe Mind team, Racktime Rob.
Holy.
Back there somewhere, off in the abyss, being the moderator for now 2 live stream feeds. Look at his responsibilities exploding. To our sponsors at Kokomo Toys, to Todd and Amber and the whole gang, thank you so much. To everyone watching us here in the live feed tonight, both on YouTube and on Facebook, thank you for tuning in and spending an hour and a half with us. To anyone who's watching this later on, which many of you do, we appreciate it. Sorry we can't get you all live, but at least you know where to find us Friday nights at 9 here on the What's on Joe Mind channel. John, Troy, shout outs to you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime you need us, by all means, say the word, and we'll get you back in just as soon as possible, or get whatever word you need to get out. Just yeah. So
Awesome.
sometimes we're not so great at doing the social media, so don't be afraid to just send an IM or something.
You
We
bet.
gotta
You
make
bet.
it
Thanks
happen.
so much, guys.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you.
Love it. It looks great.
Looks fantastic. I'm very excited for this one. So when, as Mark said, when this one comes up, make sure you get this one in.
Yeah.
I need to give a special shout to the Honcho. I will be joining him again on Sunday on the Eternal Baseball podcast, 2 weeks in a row. I think I am being groomed for the permanent gig.
See? We'll see. Right?
It's
Right?
not happening. He just got 2 weeks in a row. But what can you do? So if you enjoyed, watching Mark and I stammer through a baseball game with a bunch of zombie and pro wrestling references,
Mhm.
get ready for more of that this week.
Yeah. We're looking to sync a new team this week.
That's right.
So watch as Mike and I torpedo the Diamondbacks, hosting the Red Hot Chicago Cubs. And you can find it's Eternal Baseball on YouTube. www.eternalbaseball.com. You can find us on Facebook. We're all over the place. But it's Sunday nights. at 9 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, subscribe to Eternal Baseball. If you're one of the few who watches us and isn't subscribed now, make sure you hit that button and get yourself all the notifications and all of the fun that we put out on our social media channels. They are listed down in the description below. For my co-hosts, Mark Weber and Joe Colton, for my guests, Troy McKie and John Kukovich, I'm Mike Irizarry reminding you, go get vaccinated. Let's get back to normal. Let's get out and see one another again this summer and this fall. Have a great evening, and tune in again with us next week for the next very exciting episode of What's on Joe Mind. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.